Which shoe is better to hoop in? The Nike KD15 or the PG6? Let's find out. Today we're putting the newest models from Kevin Durant and Paul George's signature lines with Nike head to head to see how they compare. So we're going to be looking at like the cushion, support, traction, just kind of seeing how these models stack up to each other. So the KD15 is going to be our more expensive model today, retailing for $150. But that did stay the same as last year's KD14 model, so no price jump to worry about there. And honestly, I really do just love the look for these. Like I said, I was sad to see the strap go that was there on the 14s. I always do love that touch, but this is a lower release than we've seen in KD's line in a minute. Like the last shoe that released as a low top, or at least this low, I think you'd have to go all the way back to the KD11s. And I do kind of prefer low top shoes, so you know that's going to be good with me. But you are going to get some KD branding, like his player logo is going to show up on the tongue there. And then the Nike swoosh on the upper is kind of like on top of this overlay, and they even reversed the Nike swoosh on the inner side too. And on the heel, you're going to get like a curved setup with the easy pull tab there. And KD goes by the nickname like Easy Money Sniper on socials. That's kind of where it comes from, like as a nickname. So I am kind of big on this setup if you can't tell. And then the same thing with the PG6. Like it's a really nice model, and this is going to be our on the more affordable side, retailing for $110. And after all these years, only $110. Like that's crazy. It's the cheapest shoe line with Nike by far. Actually, outside of the Zoom Freak 3s. The Zoom Freak 3s are like 120, 130-ish, but I mean, looking at the side of the upper on these, you should just know that I'm feeling these with that reverse swoosh there. And honestly, these two models are kind of like flip-flop. Like you get a backward swoosh on the outsole or on the outer side, you got a forward facing swoosh on the inside. It's kind of like flipped on the PGs here, where you get the reverse on the outside, forward on the inside swoosh there. But you're also going to get PG signature kind of running down the tongue on top of the like where that setup is. And then his player logo kind of like bleeds onto the midsole from the bottom of the shoe. So honestly, I'm sure you get it by now. I do like this shoe, and I honestly like the look for both of these. So now let's see how they play. So now I'll break down more of the tech specs and just kind of talk about the performance side for each of these shoes. So starting off with the cushioning, I'm just gonna kind of lay out both cushioning setups for you first. The KD15 uses a full-length Air Zoom strobel unit that is stitched directly to the upper to help cut out unnecessary weight and just provide full foot responsiveness. Then along with that is going to be some foam that just runs the full length of the shoe that's meant to add like a soft and comfortable sensation to give you back optimal energy. So definitely some nice cushioning features on this shoe. And it is a lot of the same stuff that was used in the KD14 model last year, but this PG6 model definitely switched it up from the 5s. They definitely made some changes. You're going to get Nike React technology kind of in that midsole, and that's just a lightweight, like endurable foam that's meant to give you a smooth and responsive feel. And it does feel like the PG6 lost a little bit of their softer feel from last year. Like, I mean, the PG5 had this memory foam that just felt really nice from the jump. These don't feel bad, just not quite as padded from what I've noticed, besides the sock liner and like the tongue. Like those actually have like a really plush feel just to kind of enhance the comfort a little bit, and it does do that. But I mean, this is going to be another balanced setup. You just don't feel much of a difference in like the forefoot or in the heel, and that's much different than what we got over here with the KD15s. The forefoot does have like that Zoom Air unit that Air unit that's going to be stacked up in the front to give you some additional balance. Like I've compared it to being like a lesser version of the Kyrie 8 Infinity. Those have like the same springy feel in the front portion, but I think the Kyrie 8s are a little bit more spring loaded compared to the KD15s. But I still really do like this setup. I mean, honestly, I did used to prefer more balanced designs just a little bit more, but as long as the heel doesn't lack, and I wouldn't say that these do at all, I actually have been preferring those like kind of top heavy cushioning setups like the Kyrie 8s, the Jordan 36, the Cosmic Unity 2 kind of has, you know, that same thing kind of going on there. So they have been feeling good to play in. And now I'm going to actually bring you down here to check out the midsole using our durometer. These are the KD15 is reading at a 39, and that is kind of around the average that I've seen on most basketball shoes. The PG6 is going to read a little bit lower, kind of roughly around that 33.5, and that is on the more soft side, just by a little bit, like a few shades under, and that is going to check out because they are using that Nike React foam that is meant to be softer there. So they don't have, the PG6 honestly doesn't have a lot of other cushioning features to help the shoe, so that does make sense why they do that. So now looking more at the materials and the support. I'm just playing. I actually just got this cast taken off. They just called me up, moved my appointment forward, so I had to stop recording this. But I mean, it's at least nice to see that we are progressing through this. Probably about 6 weeks out from being fully healed, but I mean, no more splint. That's going to allow me to do some more movements on the court, so we don't got to get any more just left-handed layups for everything. But now finally dialing it back to the materials and the support. You do get a little bit more going on with this KD15. And first and foremost, Nike did take the strap off of this year's line. And anyone who knows me knows that I was upset to see that go. But I mean, hey, Nike did actually throw that strap on the newest KD Trait 5 model that I actually got right over there. So I mean, I did just check those out. It's It's a really nice shoe. I like the way that they play, but back to this shoe again. I'm getting distracted. You do have a multi-mesh layered upper that is meant to be lightweight and give you that already broken in type feel. And they wanted to give you something that would be breathable and also help reduce your movements. And there are some pieces on here to help with that. So one thing I do want to touch on just for a second about this shoe is the heel slippage. So, I mean, a lot of people, honestly, myself included, did have a little bit of trouble just keeping your foot just from sliding up out the backside of that shoe. And at first I thought that was really weird because the heel is actually specifically crafted to help support your Achilles tendon. Katie has been dealing with a bunch of injuries related to that. That's why that like whole section, like the slippage, just kind of threw me off back there. And I don't know, it maybe isn't as simple as this, and it might not work for everyone, but for me, I mean, if you really take the time to lace these up tight, that pretty much took away all of my movement. Like, even though the KD15 did lose the strap, you have a midfoot containment band that, like, you should feel really lock your foot in whenever you pull on those laces. And in addition to that, the Nike swoosh actually rests on top of this, on the upper. It rests on top of this overlay, and the laces feed through that, and that just helps keep your foot from like sliding around more than it should. That's more so for the lateral containment. So, I mean, I did have some of the initial concerns that everyone else was dealing with on these, but I mean, it hasn't been bad for me, like, especially not as bad as some models in the past, like the Harden Volume 5, just something like that. But now to finally switch it over to the PG6, there's not quite as many moving pieces on this shoe. Nike did use a breathable and lightweight mesh upper with some no-sew overlays on top of that. And this is just a little bit more of like a thin feel. It was like multiple layers on the KD15. Just doesn't feel quite as thick on this model, but there are some forefoot straps that are like kind of integrated into the laces to make your foot feel more secure. And I haven't had any struggles with the support on the PG6 at all. Like, they felt really good to play in so far. And with both of these shoes being low tops, the PG6 is still going to be the lighter shoe today, weighing 392 grams for a size 10.5. The KD15 is going to be up a little bit from there, weighing 424 grams for the same size, but not really like a wide enough gap to notice a huge difference, especially whenever you're playing on the court. But I mean, with the KD15s having more materials that were used to construct that upper, I mean, that's probably why they weigh a little more. To finish off with traction, both of these shoes did change up their traction pattern a little bit from their previous models. The KD15 is going to have some grooves and ridges in the sole to help provide multi-directional traction. It's not really as organized as the ovals were from last year's, KD14 model, but the PG6 is going to get a rubber outsole that, is pretty much there to do the same thing, just give you multi-directional coverage and just help you stay under control. And I still think these are probably the best two performing signature shoe lines for traction in Nike's brand. Like, I think the last few PG and KD models have been outperforming, like, the LeBrons, the Zoom Freak line, Kyrie's, and that pretty much is going to stay right on track here. Like, both of these shoes have some noticeable bite on the floor, and I haven't felt slipping on either model. I mean, the KD15 does feel like it is a little bit stickier, but it's also slightly more of a dust collector than the PG6. And honestly, I mean, full disclosure, I do kind of prefer the previous models for like traction in this section, like the PG5 and, well, I mean, the KD14 and the KD15, those were, about the same to me. But I mean, both models are still going to give you a really balanced feel for indoors, and it doesn't stop there. Like, both of these can handle outdoors too, with some deeper grooves. But I will say, like, the outsole material on the KD15s feels a little bit softer, and it's also the more expensive pair. So do with that info what you will if you prefer to use, cheaper models outdoors compared to more expensive. But as for sizing, I did go true to size on both, and that was perfect for me. You get a thumb's width left over in the length for both of these shoes, and the width is like standard to narrow. KD's always had somewhat of a slimmer shoe, but the PG6, it just feels like they aren't quite as wide as last year's model either. So for the final ratings and starting off with the appearance, you guys know I rock for low top models, and I also love the reverse Nike swoosh. Both of these shoes kind of check that box, so I'm going to start off this section with a tie. But as for cushioning, the PG6 doesn't play quite as soft as last year, and the KD15 also has that loaded forefoot that I've really been liking, so I am going to go with the KD15s here. But looking at the materials, I wouldn't say the PG6 is like, feeling cheap, but it's just factually the cheaper model by $40. And then compared to the multi-layer mesh upper and just like the overlays going on with the KD15s, I am going to lean towards the KD15 for that section. And then as for the support, like I said, it was an easy fix for me on the heel slippage for the KD15, and they do have some really nice support features, but there's still no issue on the PG6, even with them being the lighter model. And then you're also going to have that band running across the middle of the shoe, so I actually am going to slightly lean with the PG6 for that section, just because they didn't have any initial flaw. And then to finish off with traction, I'm actually going to keep that section as a tie. Like, the KD15 and the PG6 have played really well. I just haven't had like a clear way to like lean, no side to choose there, but that is going to lead to me going with the Nike KD15 as the better shoe to hoop in. And this one is definitely close. I feel like it always is between like KD and PG's line, but the cushioning is kind of what pushes it over for me, because even with the KD15 feeling a little bit more quality, you would want and expect that. They cost but they're also just like right there with the PG6 in every other category. And the PG6 did lose a little bit of their softness from last year, but still a really well-rounded shoe. You honestly can't go wrong with either model. Thank you guys for taking some time to watch. Feel free to drop a follow or subscribe wherever you're watching and give this video a like if you liked the video, of course. And if you're interested in buying the Nike KD15s and you want to support our channel, just click the link that we have here on screen or check out the links down below or in our bio. We got those for both shoes. But until next review, I'm Landon from Shoewear. Peace.